There's a secret about discipline that no one has told you. And when you discover this secret, everything you believed about willpower, about forcing yourself to do things, about fighting with yourself to be productive, will crumble. Not because it was wrong, but because it was incomplete. Because there's a way to be disciplined that doesn't involve suffering, that doesn't involve internal warfare, that doesn't involve you becoming your own executioner. Have you ever stopped to notice what happens inside you when you try to force yourself to do something? You know that feeling when you push yourself, when you pressure yourself, when you fight with yourself to be productive? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? As if you were two people at the same time. One who wants to rest and another who won't let you. One who needs care and another who only knows how to demand. In the next few minutes, you're going to discover why this approach doesn't work long term, and more importantly, you're going to learn a completely different way of relating to discipline. A way that will surprise you with its simplicity and effectiveness. Because what you're about to discover isn't just another productivity technique. It's a fundamental change in how you treat yourself. I want to invite you to take a pause. Not a pause from your responsibilities, but a pause from this internal war you've been waging with yourself in the name of productivity. Because something we've discovered over decades of accompanying people through their change processes is that true discipline, the kind that actually works and that you can maintain over time, doesn't arise from brute force against yourself. It arises from something much more subtle and much more powerful. It arises from the alliance you make with yourself. Let me tell you something that perhaps no one has told you before about discipline. The word discipline comes from the Latin discipulus, which means student, learner. It doesn't mean soldier, it doesn't mean slave, it doesn't mean machine. It means someone who is willing to learn. And when you understand this, everything changes. Because a learner doesn't punish themselves when they make mistakes. A learner observes, adjusts, and continues. A learner has curiosity about their own process, not hatred for their limitations. Now I want you to stop for a moment and notice how you're feeling right at this instant. You don't need to change anything. You don't need to fix anything. Just notice. How is your breathing? How is the tension in your body? What kind of conversation were you having with yourself before you started listening to this? This awareness, this moment of conscious pause, is the first step of everything we're going to build together from here forward. You see, most people think discipline is about doing things even when you don't want to do them. And there's a piece of truth in that, but that truth is incomplete. True discipline is about creating the internal conditions so that you want to do the things that are important to you. It's about aligning your energy with your values, not about waging war against your own human nature. Think of a plant. A plant doesn't force its growth. It doesn't fight with the soil, doesn't struggle against the rain, doesn't rebel against the sun. It aligns itself with the conditions that nourish it and thus grows naturally. Your discipline can be like this too. Not a struggle, but an alignment. Not a war, but a dance. But to get there, we first need to understand what's happening inside you when you procrastinate, when you sabotage yourself, when you do exactly the opposite of what you know you should do. And I'm going to tell you something that might seem counterintuitive. Most of the time, when you can't be disciplined, it's not because you're weak. It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you don't have enough willpower. It's because there's a part of you that's trying to protect you from something. Let me explain this better. Imagine you're in a room and need to cross to get to the other side. But in the middle of the room, there's a dog that you don't know if it's gentle or aggressive. Your natural reaction will be to stop, assess, maybe go around, maybe wait for someone to accompany you. You're not being lazy, you're being prudent. Your procrastination works exactly like this. There's something in the task, in the process, in the possibility of failure or success that your unconscious mind has identified as threatening, and it's trying to protect you by making you avoid the situation. The problem is that this protection, which may have been useful at some point in your life, is now hindering you more than helping you. It's like wearing a winter coat on a summer day. The intention is good, but the result is discomfort. So the first movement toward developing discipline without suffering is to stop fighting your resistance and start being curious about it. Instead of cursing yourself when you procrastinate, you can ask yourself, what is this part of me trying to protect me from? What is it afraid of? What does it need to hear to feel safe? Sometimes the answer is fear of failure. Sometimes it's fear of success and all the changes it might bring. Sometimes it's fear of not being enough, of disappointing someone, of discovering you're not as capable as you thought. And sometimes it's something even simpler. It's the exhaustion of always demanding from yourself, always pushing yourself, always at war with yourself. When you name what you're feeling, when you acknowledge your resistances without judgment, something interesting happens. The tension decreases. It's as if you took a heavy backpack off your shoulders. You haven't solved the problem yet, but you stop carrying the extra weight of fighting against yourself. Now, from this place of less tension, of greater clarity, you can start making different choices. Not heroic choices, not radical changes that will last 3 days and then leave you with even more guilt. Small, sustainable choices that honor both your goal and your current state. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say you want to develop the habit of exercising regularly, but every time you think about it, you feel enormous resistance. Instead of forcing yourself to go to the gym and exercise for an hour, you can start by asking yourself, what's the smallest possible version of this habit that I could do even on my worst days? Maybe it's putting on your sneakers. Just that. Or leaving the house and walking around the block. Or doing 3 jumping jacks. Does it seem ridiculously small? Great. That's exactly what we want. Because when you can do the minimum version consistently, 2 important things happen. You break the pattern of avoidance, and you rebuild your confidence in your own word. And here's one of the most important discoveries about discipline. It's not about doing big things occasionally. It's about keeping small commitments with yourself every day. It's about proving to yourself through small but consistent actions that you are someone you can trust. Think of it this way. Every time you do what you said you were going to do, even if it's something tiny, you're making a deposit in the account of trust you have in yourself. And every time you break a commitment with yourself, you're making a withdrawal from that account. Sustainable discipline happens when you have a positive balance in that account, when you truly believe you're capable of doing what you set out to do. But there's something even deeper happening here. When you stop fighting against yourself and start working in partnership with yourself, you discover that you had much more energy available than you imagined. All that energy you were spending on internal warfare can now be directed toward what really matters. It's like the difference between rowing against the current and rowing with the current. In the first case, you exert a lot of effort and make little progress. In the second case, you exert less effort and make much more progress. True discipline is learning to identify what the current of your own nature is and how to work with it, not against it. This doesn't mean you'll only do what you feel like doing. It means you'll find ways to want to do what needs to be done. It means you'll create the internal conditions, emotional, mental, physical, so that the right action is also the most natural action. For example, if you need to wake up earlier, instead of just setting the alarm earlier and hoping to have willpower, you can ask yourself, how can I make the process of waking up early more attractive and the process of continuing to sleep less attractive? Maybe it's going to bed earlier. Maybe it's leaving a special cup of coffee prepared the night before. Maybe it's having something enjoyable to do right when you wake up. You're creating an internal and external environment that supports the choice you want to make, instead of fighting against all the forces pulling you in the opposite direction. And here we come to a crucial point. True discipline isn't about perfection. It's about imperfect consistency. It's about always coming back when you get off track, without punishing yourself, without dramatizing, without giving up. It's about understanding that doing 60% consistently is much more powerful than doing 100% occasionally. When you make mistakes, when you procrastinate, when you don't do what you planned, what you do in the next 5 minutes is more important than the mistake itself. Do you punish yourself and enter a spiral of guilt that can last for days? Or do you simply acknowledge what happened, learn what you can learn, and get back on track. This reminds me of something Carl Rogers, the humanistic psychologist, observed throughout his career. The difference between people who can maintain lasting changes and those who get stuck in cycles of trying and failing isn't that the former never get off track. It's that they come back faster. They've developed the ability to forgive themselves quickly and redirect without wasting time and energy on self-recrimination. This reminds me of an airplane pilot. During a flight, the plane is off its intended route about 95% of the time due to winds, turbulence, and other atmospheric conditions. But the pilot is constantly making small adjustments to the rudder and controls to get back on the planned course. He doesn't panic or make abrupt maneuvers because of each small deviation. He simply corrects the trajectory gradually and continues navigating toward the destination. Your life can be like this too. Now I want to invite you to imagine what your life would be like if you stopped fighting with yourself. What would it be like to wake up in the morning without that mental conversation of self-demand? What would it be like to sit down to work without that weight of procrastination? What would it be like to go to sleep knowing you did what could be done with the resources you had available that day? I'm not talking about a perfect life. I'm talking about a life where you are your own ally, not your own enemy. A life where you trust yourself because you show yourself to be trustworthy through small daily actions. A life where discipline isn't a prison, but a liberation. The liberation of living according to your own values, of pursuing your own goals, of becoming who you really want to be. And this starts today. Not tomorrow, not on Monday, not next month. It starts with the next choice you make. It starts with you deciding to treat yourself with the same kindness you would treat a good friend who is going through difficulties. It starts with you choosing a small, sustainable action that you can do today, and that is aligned with who you want to be. Discipline without suffering is possible. Not because life will become easier, but because you will become more skilled at navigating difficulties without becoming your own enemy. And when this happens, when you stop fighting against your own nature and start working in partnership with it, you discover that you always had much more power than you imagined. You just needed to learn to use it wisely. If you felt value in this space we shared today, if something here touched the truth of your own experience, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Not out of obligation, but because you recognize that this is a safe place to continue this journey of transformation, where we can keep exploring what it means to live in alliance with yourself, rather than at war with who you are.